Hi, I'm Dédé Wilson. I'm going to show you how to make a parchment cone. This is a really handy thing to know how to make. I use them all the time when I'm decorating cakes, when I'm writing happy birthday or congratulations on top of a decorated cake. You don't have to own a pastry bag or a tip. They're disposable. There's all sorts of reasons why you should know how to make one. The problem is when you read directions in a book, it sounds really confusing. So this is a perfect thing for you to see how to make. So what we need to start with is a triangle of parchment. Now you can see this is pretty flat. A lot of parchment you will find in the supermarket next to the aluminum foil. It'll come on rolls, and so it'll have a natural curl to it. Just pull out a nice big piece and put it between some cookie sheets overnight so you flatten it out. Or go to your local bakery like I do and ask them if you can buy a stack of large flat sheets. And then cut out a triangle. It doesn't really matter what size, but you don't want to make it too small and you don't want to make it too big. So you can sort of see what this is, and I'd go with this. I have one made. This is what we're making. Now it may seem counterintuitive that the point of the cone is actually going to come from the flat side of the parchment, the center of the flat side. But it is. And if you just remember that's where you start, then all the steps will fall into place. So take your finger, put it in the center of the long side of the parchment, and then take this corner, curl it up. See how the cone shape is already starting to take shape? Now I'm going to shuffle my hands around a little bit. Don't get confused. All I'm going to do is bring this point up to there, just from the other angle to make it easier for me. There we go. Now, look at this. It's looking like a cone, but can you see how the tip is open? If I poured melted chocolate in there right now, it would flow right out. We want to tighten that up. And the way to do that is to take this end and we sort of jiggle the corners, these pieces. There's 3 corners here now. Look how nice and tight that is. And that was just from manipulating the paper. You just jiggle it back and forth until it gets nice and tight. Okay, now you have a choice. You can either put a little piece of tape, but if you don't have tape in the kitchen, I don't always have it handy. What I do is I just fold it back and I make a little notch, and then I just tuck the notch in or out, and there's your cone. Okay, I'm going to show you from another perspective, from my perspective. This is what I see when I do it. Thumb on the center of the long side, take this corner, bring it up to here. Now I'm going to flip it around. Take this corner, goes back and around and up to the back. And then, see, big hole. We have to jiggle these 3 on this end. There we go. Nice and tight. Look at that. No melted chocolate's going to fall through there. So, no tape, no problem. Fold it over. Rip a little notch. Tuck the notch. And there we have it. Parchment cone. Now I'm going to go melt some chocolate, and then I'll show you how to use our parchment cone. My chocolate is nice and melted. Now I want you to notice something. You see how you can still see some of the shapes of the pieces of chocolate? That's because when you melt chocolate, you really only want to melt it about 3/4 of the way, and then you can stir it and the residual heat will melt it. The reason why I waited to the last minute to melt the chocolate is because it'll be super smooth and we won't have any little pieces that might get clogged in the parchment cone when we cut the tip. Now, here I have this is a measuring cup. You can use any kind of a glass. It's really handy. Usually there's no one else in the kitchen to help me. So I'll put my parchment cone in a container like this to hold it upright, and that way I can scrape the melted chocolate in it. You could also, of course, use frosting at this point or something else that's semi-liquid that you want to decorate your cake with. But I think a good 90% of the time when I use parchment cones, it's with melted chocolate. So, just like with a pastry bag, you don't want to overfill. So I'm just going to pour in, well, about 1/3 of the way up. Nice and smooth. And then we're going to close the top. Again, this part isn't scientific, just get the top closed. Now, there's a tiny little droplet coming out, that's okay. Now here I have a pan. This is a really great tip. This is an 8-inch pan. Let's say I baked an 8-inch birthday cake, and that's what I want to decorate on the top. I don't know about you, but have you ever tried to write congratulations, but you don't get all the way across because your letters are too big and you get to the L or the A or whatever and you've run out of space on the cake? That's happened to me. So what you want to do is you want to take the cake pan that you baked your cake in, turn it upside down. This obviously is the same diameter as your cake, and this way you can practice. So we need a scissors, and we're just going to cut a really small little hole off of the tip. You can always make it big later on. There, it's flowing. Beautiful. So let's see. Let's go for happy birthday. It's flowing nice and smoothly. The other thing, when you're melting chocolate, this is a couverture chocolate. This is not chocolate chips that I melted down. This is a really nice Valrhona chocolate, Equatorial. It's 55%. It's my favorite go-to semi-sweet chocolate, and it has such a nice high percentage of cocoa butter that it's super smooth. And so when you're doing something like this, where it's really important that you have very smooth chocolate, it pays to use good chocolate. Actually, it always pays to use good chocolate. Oh, see what happened? Oh, there we go. Thought we had a lump, but we didn't. Just had to add a little more pressure. There we go. Not bad for a first time, but as you can see, then you can just scrape it off, practice again. It's a really, really helpful tip. So that's how you make a parchment cone. I hope that you'll consider using these and making these in your kitchen. When you're decorating a cake and melted chocolate is involved, I say it's your go-to tool.